StreamYard thing.
Okay.
Okie dokie. Right. So let's get going. So good evening, everybody. I hope for those of you who are fasting that you had a good iftar and you're not too sleepy, but at least relaxed and fed until the next time. So welcome. The theme of our live this evening at IH Cairo is the question, when is a CELTA not a CELTA? And the reason we decided to make this live, in fact, it was my idea, good or bad, so I'll take the blame if it goes wrong and take the credit if it goes well. Is that we heard some strange rumors, and these rumors pop up, every now and again. And it's related to where you take the CELTA course. So rumors are flying around, if you take it here, it's more accredited. If you take it there, it doesn't really count, and all kinds of nonsense that is basically untrue. And as we've put in the title, when is a CELTA not a CELTA? Then it's basically when it's not accredited. All right. So a CELTA is a CELTA at a center when a center has been through the accreditation process. Right. Any center that wants to run a CELTA has to fill in a very long form, about 30 plus pages, to say why they should be allowed to run it. And then we wait until Auntie Cambridge says, yes, you can, or no, you can't. So in the case of all the centers running in Egypt, we've all had our permission. So therefore, we are all accredited and we are all legal CELTA centers. So that's the first way to knock this rumor on the head. All right. So, which brings us to our first question. Does it matter where I take the course? Well, as long as it's an accredited CELTA center with a center number, absolutely not. And you'll know, because if you visit the center where a CELTA is allowed to run, there's usually a kind of picture. It's a certificate of permission that sort of says that we can run CELTAs. So if your center doesn't have one, that means they don't have permission. All right. So in Egypt, we have 5 registered centers. They've all got numbers, so you'll know that they are legal and registered. So you're not wasting your money. The other point to remember is that when you receive your certificate, it doesn't say the name of the place where you took the course. It just shows the center number. So that's the center number that shows it's accredited. Okay, so the name of the place is not written if you think you're going to be, that there'll be prejudice against you. In actual fact, there isn't in most places. Okay, so anybody that doubts the place that you took it obviously doesn't know much about the CELTA. So obviously not a place you'd like to work because they have no awareness or very low level awareness. All right, so another question. Does the course size make a difference? No, because on every CELTA course, Cambridge has a very strict rule. There must be one CELTA tutor for every 6 candidates. Okay, this is a rule that's as old as CELTA itself. So whether you have 8 candidates, 10 candidates, 15 candidates, 18 candidates, 24 candidates, there must be tutors in accordance with those numbers. All right. So if you had a course of 24, there will be 4 tutors. All right. Even if your course was only had 8 participants, there have to be 2 tutors because Cambridge says 2 tutors have to assess you. So even if you had a course of 4 or 5, you would still have 2 tutors. Obviously, if you had a very small course, you'd get more attention. But for the most part, one tutor has 6 candidates to look after. You are only together during the input sessions as one big group. And then we organize ourselves accordingly. And then when it comes to teaching practice, you're separated into your groups. All right. As somebody who's been working on CELTA courses since 1997, I've never noticed any visible difference, unless the course is really small, when it's like 4 or 5 people. But there aren't many places in the world where they'll run a course with 4 or 5 people, because obviously that's not necessarily financially viable for most places. I mean, we have to be honest about that. At the end of the day, an organization has to pay its staff and cover its costs. All right. So no, course size doesn't make a difference. It doesn't affect the quality of the course. And in fact, if the course is very large, when it's a 20+ course, we often have 2 tutors in a session. So in actual fact, you're getting more attention than you would on other courses. Okay. Another question. All right. Is it better to take it in an English-speaking country? Well, there's a yes and a no to that. It depends on what your future plans are. If you're planning to teach multilingual classes, which I did for many years before I left the UK, then it might be a good idea, because you'll get the experience of teaching different nationalities in one class. On the other hand, if your plan is to travel and teach in different countries, then you will be teaching monolingual classes, i.e. students that all speak the same language, that they have the same mother tongue, all right? Which is where most of us end up. Most language teachers around the world are teaching monolingual classes. So it might be more sensible for you to take a course in a country where English isn't the first language, all right? Because that might be more relevant to your experience. Some people, for example, want to teach Arabic-speaking students, so they come to Egypt, or they go to the Gulf, or Tunisia, Morocco, and so on, okay? Because that's their particular interest, all right? But all experience is valid. So I wouldn't say that there's a better or a worse. It's about your career plans, okay? Your own sort of, your own agenda. So if that's where you're going, you want to stay in the UK, you want to stay in the US, you want to stay in Canada, Australia, and so on, then yes, it would make sense. But if your plan is to travel, which is probably why most of us took our CELTAs, or are planning to take the CELTA, because we want to see different countries. So we're going to end up teaching monolingual anyway. Okay. All right. Here's an interesting question. It's, why are some courses more expensive than others? Well, I'm a teacher trainer. I'm not the numbers person. But having been a budget manager, I think I know the basic answers to this. In many cases, it's related to the standards of living and earning power of the country. So, for example, in many Gulf countries, a CELTA is much more expensive. Okay, probably because it's assumed that you're working in the Gulf and you have lots of money. It's something in economics where they say it's what the market can stand. So if they believe, the center believes it can charge more because people can pay more, they will do that. All right. We're sort of in the middle in Egypt, North Africa, places like Tunisia, Morocco. We're sort of the middle. We're not the most expensive, but we're not the cheapest. Some European countries like Italy and Spain are cheaper, simply because they have lots of competition. All right, so there's no secrets. We're all about transparency. So they all have to put their prices down and probably pay their poor CELTA tutors much less because of it, because they can't charge the correct rate. So that's basically why some courses are more expensive than others. It's related to the country itself, more than a center being greedy or demanding. Okay, so that's usually where it is, which is fine for the customer, because you, the person who's if you're thinking of doing a CELTA course, then you shop around and compare prices. So this again depends on what your plans are and what your your aims are for taking the course. if you're planning to work somewhere like Spain and live there, it might be an idea to take it there because you're going to live there anyway. But if you don't live in that country, you're going to spend a lot of money in flights, visas, accommodation. So then suddenly it's not so cheap after all. Okay, so always factor those things in when you're taking a course. I took mine in the UK because I'm from the UK, so I was already there. I didn't think of taking it elsewhere because it seemed, not so sensible financially to go and spend more money on flights, which were more expensive when I was younger, and to have to rent a flat at the same time, which might be more expensive than where I lived already. Okay, so those are the things you have to bear in mind. So I hope I've answered that. Here's a bit of a dangerous question, but the answer is fairly straightforward. Are some CELTA centres more lenient than others? Is it easier to pass at these centres? So somebody obviously thinks they'll get a free ride if they go and take their CELTA at a certain place. Would that it were true. No, it isn't. It's not easier to pass at those centres, simply because CELTA tutors cannot do their own thing. All right? CELTA tutors have to follow the Cambridge criteria. It's all laid down for us. And this is what we use on our courses with our candidates. We have 3 of our lovely ex-candidates here who received the criteria. It was given to them at the beginning of the course, so they knew what they were being assessed on. So, we have to follow that. All right. That is the deal for being a CELTA tutor. You have to apply the criteria. B, at the end of every CELTA course, an assessor, like an inspector, comes to check that the tutors are applying this system correctly. Okay, which means they look through CELTA candidates' portfolios, and if they see that we haven't applied the criteria correctly or applied it at all, we're going to get in trouble. All right, so you can't get away. You can't think to yourself, "Oh, I'll go to this place because they always let everybody pass." No, it's not in our hands. All right. I'm sure that there are times when we'd love it to be in our hands, and so we could pass everybody and make ourselves look great. It's just not possible, and that's why Cambridge does it, to ensure that there are some standards going on, that tutors don't just do what they want. Okay, so this is another reason why the course is so expensive. It's we give feedback to our candidates and we get feedback from outside, so we are also checked. Your tutors are checked. All right, so there's no leniency. We can't just go, oh yeah, we'll just write whatever we like, because we will get checked, so we'll be in trouble. And the other thing to bear in mind, which of course many of you might not know, is that if a centre is found not to be following the rules and running the CELTA course properly, CELTA centres are closed down, and it has happened. Thankfully, it's rare, but it has happened. Cambridge doesn't joke about these things. So if we make mistakes, we're not allowed to operate. So it really is that simple. Right, the last question from my list, and we'll see if any others come up, is, are all the tutors British? Well, the answer to that, thankfully, no. I will say most of them are British around the world, simply because the CELTA is a British course. All right, so probably worldwide, a lot of the tutors are British. However, over time, things have changed a great deal. It's great to see now that we have tutors of all nationalities. So it's not about being British to be a CELTA tutor. It's about meeting the Cambridge criteria to become a CELTA tutor, because we also have to be trained. We have to undergo a training process, again, that is supervised in the centre, and then the assessor also comes to see that you are ready to be a CELTA tutor. So IH, because it's a very international organisation, hence its name, has tutors from all over. There's no discrimination. If the tutors meet the criteria, they become tutors. So we have British tutors, we have Egyptian tutors, Ukrainian, Polish, whatever. We have a mix, all right? Because our criteria is that the tutors are accredited, experienced, and capable tutors. We're not looking at their passports. And that's very, very important because International House, like all Cambridge accredited centres, is an equal opportunities organisation. We don't discriminate against passports, okay? It's about your ability to do the job. Excuse me, I think I'll have to take a slurp. So I hope that's answered some of those questions that were given to us earlier. So if anybody has any more questions, feel free to write them in the chat box. And I shall just look and go, So I can't see anything yet, so it means we must be very quiet at the moment. So we can just have a little sleep while people think of questions to ask us. Well, if we're not getting anything, we can go to our next stage and then come back and answer the questions. As you can see, I have 3 lovely guests. I'm also trying to prove to myself that my CELTA candidates do speak to me after the course. So they have very kindly agreed to pretend to like me after the course. I will just ask everybody to introduce themselves. So I will go with the time-honored tradition of ladies first. So just say your name and where you're from, please.
Hello, everyone. I'm Anke. I'm from Belgium originally, but I live in Cairo, and I've lived here for 6 years already.
Oh, excellent. Your microphone's off.
Okay. Okay, now?
Yes.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Ahmed Yahya. I'm 39 years old, and I'm from Egypt here.
And you live in a lovely part of Egypt?
Yes, القناطر, yes, القناطر الخيرية, yes.
Very nice. Okay, last but not least.
Go Boston.
Hello. Sorry, my microphone was refusing to turn on. My name is Boston. I'm from the United States, and I live in Egypt, in Cairo.
Yes, lucky us. We all live in Egypt. So, as you can see, the people on our CELTA courses are diverse, like our tutors, okay? That's how it should be. We don't want people who, teachers and trainers to be all the same nationality. Otherwise, it'd be very boring. So we want people from different cultures, different backgrounds. It makes things much more interesting for trainers, makes things more interesting for the students, okay? So, as they say in French, vive la différence, we don't want to be all the same. We want to be a little bit more interesting than that. Alrighty. Now, these lucky people have recently survived a part-time CELTA where they attended Fridays and Saturdays for 10 weeks. All right. Obviously, we have other formats, but this is the one that they completed. So obviously, part-time has its advantages because you have longer to absorb things. Of course, the negative side might be that you're working in the week and you have to take the course at the weekends, or you have other commitments. So they've survived. They're still here, still smiling. I think they're enjoying the sleep that they've had since the course ended. It's like sleeping without any commitments. So I'm just going to ask all of you. You can answer one by one. What were your sort of high points on the CELTA course? The highs. Feel free to just throw one at me.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Go on. Who's answering? Shall I nominate like a proper teacher? Okay, yeah. Ahmed, you go first then.
Well, actually, I enjoyed every single minute at the course. It was great to meet all my colleagues, my tutors. It was nice to know about each other. You know that we came from different backgrounds, and it was amazing to know about them. It was really a good chance to improve yourself as a person, to be open to other cultures and other people. And of course, to know you, Laura and Muhammad Khalaf, you were amazing and inspiring tutors. You helped us a lot.
I'll
Yeah.
pay you later. It's okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, one of the best moments I had were during the feedbacks. The feedback was very important, very useful. I've learned a lot from your feedback, whether it was you or Muhammad Khalaf, because you simply guided us through a very difficult moments, because we didn't know what was good about our teaching, what was bad. It was a good chance to work on things that we think it was bad, and that's how I think we're improved. We made a great improvement in our teaching career. Yes.
Absolutely. Well, you certainly all did. You all changed dramatically over those 10 weeks. So you should all be so proud of yourselves for working so hard. Okay, thanks ever so much. Okay, Anka, please.
I think for me, some of the things that Ahmed mentioned as well, like I really, really liked the community atmosphere. It was just amazing. We had so much fun. And if I have to say, like, one of the funniest moments, Ahmed's going to remember that, is when we laughed. We had to do a group work and we just couldn't stop laughing. Like, and it was just amazing. Like we just had so much fun. I'm going to remember that forever. And I want to highlight that because
yes,
there was such a good atmosphere between us.
Yes, we did have a very good fun group as well. Made a big difference.
Yeah.
I think you got that sort of towards the end of course hysteria, where suddenly the smallest thing makes everybody laugh. On a full-time course, we call it week 3 hysteria, where everybody goes a bit sort of maganin, sort of like, ah. So totally
we did have
understandable.
that. So I would definitely recommend doing the face-to-face course. I don't think you can get that from an online course. And we also had these, like, you have these moments where you connect with each other. We had, like, you have lunch breaks together as well. You eat together, you go grab kosheri together, things like that. Those are definitely highlights as well.
Absolutely.
And
yes.
I would say, like, from a more like serious perspective, I would say, like, I remember my last teaching practice. I had some points that I had to work on, and and I know that Mohammed gave me like a pep talk before I had to go teach my last teaching practice, and it really helped. And that really motivated me to kind of, like, focus on the things I had to work on, and I was able to do that. And so afterwards, I really had this feeling of satisfaction and contentment and pride also, that I was able to achieve those things and better myself in those areas.
Excellent. Now, I think that's the thing, isn't it? When you finish a CELTA, that sort of sense of achievement,
Yes,
sort of,
absolutely.
yeah, things that you thought you couldn't do or that you needed to work on, and then you suddenly realize, yeah, I can do this, and you're like, okay. It's a great feeling, isn't it? Totally understand that one. All righty, thank you very much. Young Boston, how about you? What were your highs? Apart from kosheri.
Yes.
Because he's the kosheri king.
Yes. Other than having kosheri twice a week with everybody, I would like to reiterate the points that Anka, yes, only twice. I would like to reiterate the points that Ahmed and Anka brought up about creating friendships, bonding with the fellow candidates, and creating moments that, for me personally, were unforgettable. I sometimes I wake up in the morning and wish I had a CELTA to go to, because then I could just see my friends again, because we had such a good connection and a good ability to work with one another and create an atmosphere where the work was difficult, but not necessarily impossible because we had each other. And that's what really mattered the most to me. As for the more technical aspects of the CELTA, I really like the environment of observation and immediate feedback. In fact, I can't imagine working without it now. I want to be observed and I want to be told what I did wrong so that I can immediately correct my issues instead of letting something kind of fossilize and become a part of a habit.
Excellent.
With the CELTA, you find these intricacies in your teaching style that can be nipped in the bud immediately, and then you can grow from it. Whereas without an observation that's consistent, you might become used to something you should be doing, and that atmosphere kind of pushes you towards a growth mindset and a desire for feedback and wanting to learn more when it comes to pedagogy. And I appreciate that the most.
Excellent. No, there was a lot to think about, isn't there? And I think it's interesting that you like sort of saying I actually miss being observed, because I know for a lot of people being observed is probably one of the hardest parts. Sorry, somebody appeared and said hi, Ferdi, hi, welcome. So I think those things are, it's very good that you mentioned that, because that for many people is sometimes the scariest part of CELTA, is being observed.
It was.
People watching me, yes. But
it was absolutely horrifying.
Yes.
But I became comfortable with it.
You sort of became like a Stockholm syndrome. I've got to have it. It's funny, isn't it? Yeah. It's something, it's kind of a love-hate relationship, isn't it? You know it's good for you, but you're sort of thinking, yeah, but it's still, I think quite stressful. I don't think that ever leaves you entirely. But I think it also helps when you also see, as you all did, observation as help and support, and as a way, forward to improvement, which is what, of course, we want it to do. It's not about scaring your candidates. It's about, helping them to improve. Even if we do occasionally when we're watching you sort of going, or pulling funny faces. So yeah, all right. Another question that perhaps future CELTA people might want to know: what do you think were the most difficult aspects of the course? If there's anything that's, you said, it's doable, but there are things that are a bit difficult at the beginning, or that took a bit of thinking. Go on, Anka, please.
I think because of the part-time course, all of us have like a job or have families, or we have commitments like outside of the CELTA.
Sure.
And so I really had to figure out a way how to plan my work, because it's like nonstop. Like the weekends, you don't have a break during the weekends. It's just go. You have sessions and you're at International House like the whole weekend. And then you come back home, and then it's either you go to your job or you're dealing with your kids. So there's no break. So it's just 10 weeks. Yes. It's like a marathon.
Yes.
And figuring out like when to do the assignment work, when to prepare your lessons. You had to like fit everything in. For me personally, I had to fit everything around my children's schedule and their school routine. And so I think for me was the most challenging part, like, because I like to do a thorough job and like to be organized.
Exactly. Yeah.
And trying to figure out how to do that successfully took some time in the beginning.
Well, you managed it. You did the CELTA with 3 small children and got an A. That's juggling.
Alhamdulillah, yes. Alhamdulillah.
Alf Mabruk and Alhamdulillah, because that was amazing, to look after 3 small kids, like you say, juggling school schedules and getting all the work done. So yeah, absolutely. Great.
Yeah, I just hope to pass, I just set out with the idea. I just want to pass.
Well, that's a very good mindset to come in with, and we'll talk about that, because I think that's very, very important. I won't say it now, but, because we get people who do come in sometimes very sort of grade obsessed. So I think that you made an excellent point there that, you should come in hoping to pass. Anything else is extra, but the most important thing, it's brilliant to pass. It really is.
Yes.
It's an amazing achievement. So that's really an important thing for everybody to keep in their heads. Once in a blue moon, I get somebody who comes to the CELTA and says, I came here to get an A. And I think, oh, because I know deep down they're not going to get it because they came in with that wrong mindset. So nice one. Yes. And juggling your weekly responsibilities and doing part-time. This is where in some ways part-time becomes almost full-time because you're doing other stuff. I think that's a very, very moot point. Yes.
Yes, because I would just... I'm not someone who goes to bed early normally. And during the weekends when we had the CELTA course, like the sessions and the teaching practices, I would come home. I wouldn't even change into my pajamas. I would just fall on the bed and fall asleep. It was just unbelievable. I was so exhausted.
See, that's the thing, isn't it? When we were kids, we didn't want to go to bed early. Now we're adults. We're like, please let me go to bed early.
Yeah.
Yes, and suddenly CELTA certainly takes care of those things, doesn't it? You say, no, I'm okay, I'm okay. You fall asleep. Yeah, totally understand.
Well, I think you need like a post-TP nap where you organize all the information while you're asleep, because I did the same thing. I would come home and immediately I would beeline towards the bed and take like a solid 2-hour nap to recover from the day.
Like a sort of detox. No, that's totally. I think it's totally natural. Okay, Boston. What would be any lows for you on the course?
Yes, I'm the king of sleep as well. I was always up a tad late because of my sleeping pattern. So I will say that I had less commitments than other students, than other candidates on the course. So I can't really speak to the commitment problem.
Sure.
I will say that time management, regardless, is important because the CELTA does give you something to do every single day. You're not, there's no period like in college or in primary school where you have like a section of work here, a section of work here. It's every single day you're assigned some form of task, observation, paper, assignments, lesson planning, things like that, where even if you didn't want to have a bunch of commitments, you're going to have a big one from the CELTA anyway. And effectively managing that time, regardless if you have a full schedule or not, is still difficult. And I was one of the people who didn't have a lot of commitments, but still underestimated the amount of time it would take to complete these things anyway. And that's what got me.
I think that's a common, well done for mentioning that. Because I think sometimes when people don't have so much to do during the part-time course, it's, well, as somebody who's the queen of procrastination herself, I can totally relate. You sort of think, well, I've got all this time now, so I can just leave it for a couple of days. And then you suddenly think, oh no, better get that organized. Because my natural inclination is to be, to put things off until the end, except when I'm working on a CELTA. And on a CELTA, I have to be like, but in my own life, yes, I'm the queen of the last minute. So it's very easy to let things slide.
Yes, and I would also say this isn't necessarily a problem I had myself, but this is for people who want to take the CELTA who might not necessarily be native speakers of English.
Sure.
You might have trouble understanding certain aspects of the course, not because of your lack of English, but because of the more sophisticated academic language the CELTA employs. And I think that if you are interested in taking a CELTA, I encourage you to, please, be careful. Don't be discouraged by how complicated it may seem. Because even for someone like me, an American, sometimes the terminology is too much. Sometimes it's you have to sit and you have to study it yourself because and this is my language. So even if it's my language, I still had to research and do some reading and even consult a dictionary once or twice when something came up because I just didn't know that this word was used because of the special vocabulary.
Yes. Oh, that's the dilemma of the mother tongue English speaker, because we didn't study our own language at school. So we don't know the names for things until we do CELTA. It's like, oh, that's what it's called. Whereas the others know.
Yeah, and yeah, it's mostly just I do think that it's mostly an encouraging message for non-native students to do the course, even if it might seem a little too English heavy. Your English will get better, I think, if anything, because you come in with a fresh understanding and of how language acquisition works and how language instruction works generally.
Oh, yes. Excellent. Well, you've got loads of things there. No, some excellent points. Thank you so much. Ahmed, please.
Well, for me, the hardest moment were those moments before the TVs, because at those moments you have to revise all your plan and prepare yourself well, see if everything is okay with you, and it was very hard and scary for me. But once you start teaching, it's all okay. It goes smooth
Yes.
and yes, and very very good. If you are planning well and everything is okay with you, it might be very very good lesson, and all your work is rewarded, were rewarded during teaching your lesson. That's it. For me,
Yes.
it wasn't a no. The assignment were really stressed, but it was okay for me. No, nothing. What I can say is the few moments before your TVs. That's it.
Yes. I think that's normal.
Yeah.
I think, and to be honest, any good teacher is a bit jittery before his or her lesson because you're worrying about getting it right.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm coming up to my 35th year in teaching, and I still, when I'm doing a new class or a new group, a new course, whatever, that I still have a few moments before the course starts, before I meet the group, and I'm sort of, there's always a few butterflies in there. Okay, they disappear in seconds. However, it's not a bad thing that they're still there, because that means you're still, you care about what you're doing, and you're taking it seriously, and you want to do it well. So that's usually a sign that you're not being lazy or slapdash, that you're being conscientious. So yes, and I think that's of course even more so on the CELTA because you're being assessed, you're being graded and whatever. So it's very good to sort of point that out to people that yes, you do feel it, you do get a bit of butterflies in your stomach before the TP starts, but usually, like everything else, once you start, you're okay.
Yeah,
that's it, isn't it? It's just that initial and then off you go kind of thing. Brilliant. Okie dokie. So I can see a few familiar faces here. I can see Montasa. Hello. And he's mentioned a name there. He's telling somebody to watch it. Yes. Excellent. Nice to see you, Montasa. Another CELTA survivor. He did full time. Still here to tell the tale. So he did the 4-week intensive. See, he's still speaking to me as well, it seems. No bad thing. All right. Now, I know, of course, you've all got things to do, so I don't want to keep you here all night. Could I ask you to think of maybe 1 or 2 pieces of advice that you would give anybody applying for the CELTA, whether they do it online or face-to-face? Because it looks like in the next few days we'll be doing a lot of online because a lot of our teachers at the moment can't actually come to the course, but a CELTA is a CELTA regardless. So any handy tips that you could pass on for anybody planning or to do the CELTA, things they should really prepare for or bear in mind?
I have mine ready.
Go on. Oh, you got your resume. Is that you, Boston?
Yes. I seem to be phasing in and out of the Earth realm.
And you're doing a good upside down moment as well. It's quite good.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what ghost is angry at me right now, but I'll do my best to answer anyway. My 3 tips, because I thought about this after I finished the course, I was like, I really need to be prepared next time. So my 3 tips are: go to sleep early. I'm serious. Don't end up like me, where you're brushing your teeth as you're walking down the street. It's get up early, be prepared. Take notes of everything: pictures, writing, documents, downloadable PDFs, everything. Take it all, read it all, take it seriously. None of the things that the course gives you is junk. It's all stuff that will help you. Take it, read it, remember it. Don't forget it. And then thirdly, get organized. If you organize your approach to the CELTA, it will be not a breeze, but it will be significantly easier. If you just take it class by class like a school or a course, it's going to be much more difficult. You need to be prepared ahead of time for the things you're going to talk about, for things you're going
reduce the
to
stress.
teach about. Yes, it's extremely stressful. If you try to approach the CELTA day by day, you need to have a plan of action. You need to.
Excellent advice. Yes, absolutely. You made a very good point about handouts and things. For people who are, planning to do the CELTA with us, I mean, like many centres, we actually have all your handouts and everything uploaded into Classroom. So there's no need for you to lose your handouts. But of course, it's a good idea to download them every time you receive them and start putting them into folders so that you're organized when you're doing your lesson preparation and when you're doing your assignments. So yeah,
and they'll help you later too, because I ended up getting a teaching position right out of the course, and I'm reconsulting the notes and the information provided by the course, and they're helping me significantly in forming lesson plans, in approaching sessions not related to the CELTA. It will help you for years to come, not just in the moment of learning. It'll help you forever.
You're helping yourself. Nice one. Okay. Ahmed, please. What would be your advice, please?
Yes, you have to learn how to be a team player. You have to work with a team, not alone. It's not about you. It's about you and your team. If you cannot do that, you will have to go for hard times. You will lose a lot, because it's important to know people around you and learn how to work with them. It will make things easier for you. Of course, you have to be organized. You have to read a lot. You have to follow the step and be receptive to all the constructive criticism you are going to have during this level course.
Excellent. No, that's very, very important. Team player, I mean, being a team player is an essential part of teaching. And this is why we, try to encourage it on the CELTA course. We were particularly lucky with our group because you were all good team players and you all helped each other out. So we didn't have to nag you to be team players. Alhamdulillah. So that made things much easier for us. But yes, I mean, the CELTA is preparation for real life teaching. If you're working at a school, a university, any institution, employers want people who can work well with others. It's not just, about you and your lessons, as Ahmed rightly said. It's about being able to get on with other people. You don't have to love everybody, but you do need to be able to work with them. It's also sort of kind of part of growing up and being an adult. We do have to sort of sometimes smile, even if we don't.
I did love you guys, though.
He'll tell us the truth later after everything. Okay. All right. Last but not least, Anka, your words of advice, please.
I wanted to continue about what Boston said about being very organized. But I wanted to give the advice of you can be as organized as you can be, and you can make your schedule completely free to focus on the CELTA. Unexpected stuff is still going to happen.
Yes.
Like in my case, I had COVID. And so that kind of messed things up a little bit.
Yeah.
And of course, that was kind of I would say my worst fear.
Sure, yes.
Like to get it was the first time that I got it, so I stayed indoors for 2 years, and then I leave the house for CELTA and I get sick.
It's so ironic, isn't it? You just don't know. It's
but I just wanted to say there were others on the course as well. I remember there was somebody who had a death in the family. There was someone else who had big renovations going on at their house, problems with plumbing,
Yes,
unexpected
terrible.
things are going to happen. Children are going to get sick. Just keep going. That's the advice that I wanted to give.
Lovely.
Just step by step, and in our case, at least in our center, the tutors were very accommodating and very understanding if we did struggle with certain circumstances outside of the course. And so to just keep going.
Excellent advice. No, thank you very much. And I think it's very important. People who are listening, we did have, 3 mums on the course. And of course, we had some dads as well. So we do have parents on CELTA courses. So I think it's very important for people to realize that there are parents who do full-time and part-time CELTA courses, and they manage it, despite the things that happen, the things, as Anka said, do go wrong because it's called life. Life has a very annoying habit of interfering and rearing its ugly head at sort of moments when you don't least expect it. But it is all doable. Things do happen. We hope that, that things are as easy as possible. But I think that our candidates show that you can juggle your family life and do the CELTA and be successful at the same time. So, if you have children and you're worrying about doing the CELTA, you can do it. Yes, you're going to need to organize yourself and, maybe get somebody to help out, of course. But it's certainly doable.
Yes.
So,
yeah, this is the
yeah,
time
go on.
that I wanted to add that this is the time that we as mothers need to be able to count on other people. This is the time that the village needs to come and step forward so that we can get this done. I couldn't have done it without the support from my husband and my mother-in-law. They were pivotal to me, helping me succeed in the CELTA. So you can't do it on your own. Make sure you have, like, especially as a parent, you need to have a support network. Even if it's like a few people, or if it's family members or friends, or if it's paid help, or you hire a nanny, but you can't do it on your own. You need to be able to count on others, and then you can manage.
Yes, and I think you often find out that there are people maybe that you haven't realized that can be amazingly helpful as well. Even neighbors and people that friends, that sort of come to the fore when you need them. Okay, so I hope for those of you listening and watching that we haven't put you off the course completely. It's like everything else in life. It's not easy, all right? It's not necessarily a walk in the park. Yes, we always tell you that CELTA is a lot of work. It's not hugely academically difficult at all. But of course, there's jargon to learn, there's procedures to learn. All right. But most people can do this course, very easily if they are willing to change their mindsets. I think that's probably one of the most challenging parts of a CELTA course as well. Challenging your ideas about teaching, especially if you're experienced, and being willing to try different things and look at things with new eyes, because that's how we develop. We've all got our ruts and our habits, and some habits are good habits and some habits need changing. So I hope that's given some of you an idea, and we'd like to say thank you ever so much for our brave survivors, for being kind enough to give us some of their time. So thank you. It also gave us a great opportunity to see each other again.
Anytime. Thank you, Laura.
Yes, indeed. Well, and we'll be seeing you again soon, won't we? So it's not far away now. And thanks to everybody else who was watching. If you have any more questions that you weren't able to ask during the live, then please post them in the comments and we will answer them afterwards. So have a very nice evening, and we look forward to seeing some of you future victims on the course. Good night.
Good night.
I'll click the end live. All righty. So we can click on Leave Studio and that gets you out of there.
Okay.